Guys, is our diet causing our hair loss, or at the very least, exacerbating it? Well, I came across this article from Lifestyle Asia called Balding by the Bite: Foods That May Cause Hair Loss. And I think what the author is trying to argue for is that there are specific food items that can either cause or exacerbate hair loss. Now, if you've seen some of my earlier videos and content, you know my take on this subject, which is that absolutely there are certain foods that can exacerbate hair loss, maybe not cause it directly in the sense of DHT and DHT sensitivity, but indirectly cause hair loss. So one of the typical and most common ways that it can do that is through increasing inflammation, and inflammation can indirectly cause hair loss. So if you haven't checked out that content, I highly recommend you watch some of those videos to understand the line of reasoning there. But back to this, I'm really interested in seeing what the author is trying to argue for and which specific food items he or she recommends avoiding. And then we'll see if I agree with it. We'll see if you guys agree with it. And if you do, leave a comment in the comment section below and we can discuss it. So the author starts by saying the food we consume has a significant impact on the nutrition our hair receives. A healthy and balanced diet is crucial for maintaining healthy hair and preventing hair fall. However, it's important to note that some foods may seem healthy but may not actually be suitable for hair health. Yeah, I mean, I think I can largely agree with that. And then the first food item they mention is dairy. And they go on to say milk proteins are known to be beneficial for hair health, but dairy products also contain fat that can increase testosterone levels in the body. Yeah, so fat is a very important macronutrient, for the production of testosterone. So testosterone is metabolized or created from cholesterol, and fats and cholesterols often come together. So that's largely true, I would say. High levels of testosterone secretion can lead to hair fall. I mean, that's not really accurate. It's DHT, and not even DHT, to be honest. It's the sensitivity to DHT, which causes hair loss in most people, that is, especially when it comes to androgenetic alopecia. But it's not testosterone exactly, right? It's DHT, which is converted from a percentage of testosterone. And then it's not even that DHT, it's genetic sensitivity to that DHT that you have in your androgen receptors. And some people are really sensitive to it, and other people have very little sensitivity. And that sensitivity is what's going to determine hair loss in the case of male pattern baldness. But let's move on here. They say, additionally, dairy products can exacerbate dandruff, eczema, and psoriasis, which can also contribute to hair fall. Yeah, so I made a video on this topic, and dairy products, as you'll see in that video, are often injected with a growth hormone, and that growth hormone can increase significantly the production of IGF-1. And IGF-1, when it's too high or too low, is associated with hair fall and hair loss. So that is sort of the relationship between dairy and inflammation and ultimately hair loss. But if you haven't seen that video, I highly recommend you check it out and make sure that you understand why dairy can exacerbate hair loss. Next, they talk about sugar. Excessive sugar intake can cause poor blood circulation, making it difficult for nutrients to reach hair follicles. It can also cause scalp inflammation, leading to cold scalp and damaged hair. Sugar can also raise testosterone levels, which is a major cause of hair fall. Yeah, so sugar can absolutely cause inflammation. And the way that it does that is by increasing insulin production, because you have more glucose and blood sugar in your bloodstream. So you need more insulin to carry that sugar to the different cells in your body. So it increases insulin production, but it also reduces insulin sensitivity. So over time, when you're consistently spiking your blood sugars, your insulin is going to be less and less effective at picking up those sugars in your bloodstream. And ultimately, when you have excess sugars in your bloodstream that are not being addressed or transported anywhere or to any cells, your body basically thinks of that as an invader. So it's like, why is there all this sugar in my blood? And why is it not being addressed? Oh, well, it might be an invader. And so it almost causes like this autoimmune type of response where it's like, okay, well, we have to trigger the immune system now to do something about this excess sugar. And when it does that, there's a systemic inflammation response. So you have inflammation all over your body, from your knees to your back to your scalp and your androgen receptors, and places in your body with high levels of androgen receptors will be one of the first areas where you'll see, the most inflammation, or at least visible inflammation. So that's why you have, acne and psoriasis and red, dry, irritated scalp, oftentimes when you're consuming too much sugar. So I absolutely agree with that. I actually don't agree with the second part of the sentence, though, which is that sugar can also raise testosterone levels. I think it's pretty well documented that that high levels of sugar consumption can actually decrease testosterone levels. So I'm not sure what the source of that statement is, but I disagree with that. So let's go here. Refined carbs. Foods such as bread, cakes, pastas, and pizzas are high in refined carbohydrates that can block defenses against stress. If you're already experiencing stress-induced hair fall, consuming refined carbs can worsen the problem. I don't quite agree with that. I mean, I think it's pretty well documented that carbs can actually reduce stress. That's why you have kind of this stress-induced eating pattern that some people have, where they're stressed out and then they eat carbs, and that helps to temporarily reduce that stress. So I don't think this is really a reason why people are losing hair. But refined carbs are essentially the same as sugars. I mean, they're absorbed the same way. They spike insulin the same way. And so I think that's really the main reason why refined carbs can impact hair loss, basically by increasing inflammation via what I just said. And then it says nuts. The author goes on to say, although nuts are high in protein and healthy fats that are beneficial for hair health, they can also cause hair fall in some cases. Some people are allergic to nuts and may experience a delayed reaction that can cause a receding hairline. Yeah, I mean, if you're allergic to it, of course, you shouldn't be eating nuts. But I think if you are, you'll probably know, right? I mean, you'll have some kind of reaction. Some nuts also contain selenium, which is required in small quantities, but can lead to hair fall if consumed in large amounts. Yeah, but that's the same with anything, right? If anything is consumed in too large of an amount, it's going to cause some kind of problem, whether hair loss or, liver issues or whatever. So yeah, I mean, generally speaking, I think that's probably correct. But realistically, most people are deficient in selenium, probably mildly deficient, rather than have too much selenium. So I don't think that's a problem that most people need to worry about. Next, the author goes on to say swordfish. Although seafood is generally beneficial for hair health due to its protein content, swordfish is one of the richest fishes when it comes to mercury. Mercury can interact with other mineral traces in the body, particularly zinc, which promotes hair growth. And then it says a deficiency in zinc can lead to hair fall. Yeah, so that last statement is correct. Mercury does interact with zinc as well. So that's also correct. But I don't know about you guys. I don't know of a single person that eats swordfish too regularly. It's really expensive. Sometimes it's really hard to find in the supermarket as well. So I don't think this is a huge issue. But in general, yeah, I mean, you should be avoiding eating some of the bigger fish on a daily basis, right? So whether that's swordfish or shark or any of the other kind of larger fish that eat some of the smaller fish, and then by process of magnification, right, kind of accumulate all those different toxins. So yeah, I think that's just a good thing to keep in mind, regardless of hair loss. And then it says greasy food. Excessive consumption of greasy food can lead to an oily scalp and hair, making it difficult for hair to grow. This can lead to hair fall. Regular cleansing of the scalp and hair can help avoid oily hair and promote healthy hair growth. Yeah, I mean, I don't really agree with the idea that having a oily scalp is going to lead to hair loss. I mean, I think that's a pretty broad statement, and there's many other things that go into that. So, for example, if your oily scalp is a reaction from inflammation, then yeah, that can indirectly cause hair loss. But if your hair is just oily because you haven't washed it for a couple of days, like, that's fine, right? I mean, it's just sebum in your hair, and sebum is naturally produced to create a protective layer for your hair and scalp. And that's there for a reason. And I don't think you should be afraid of having, a slightly greasy scalp. But as far as greasy food is concerned, I think the bigger issue is that a lot of the oils and greasy foods that we consume are essentially essentially hydrogenated vegetable oils, seed oils, oils that are high in inflammatory omega-6s. And, as I discussed a couple of times already, inflammation can indirectly cause hair loss. And because of that, you generally want to avoid consuming too many omega-6s or some of these inflammatory oils. And you can counterbalance them with omega-3s, which is why fish in general is a good idea in terms of adding that to your diet. But by itself, I wouldn't say greasy food is some kind of huge culprit for hair loss. Next, it says carbonated drinks. Carbonated drinks can interact with insulin in the blood and reduce its effectiveness, leading to hair fall. These drinks are also high in sugar, which, as mentioned earlier, can contribute to hair fall. Yeah, same thing as the refined carbohydrates and the sugars. It's all part of the same sort of line of reasoning as far as why that can cause hair loss. And then it says sugar-free foods. So that's interesting. Let's see what the author has to say here. When it comes to healthy eating, many of us opt for sugar-free or diet alternatives to reduce our sugar intake. However, did you know that these so-called healthy options may actually be causing harm to your health? The truth is many sugar-free foods are packed with artificial sweeteners like aspartame, which can lead to a range of unpleasant symptoms, including hair loss. Yeah, so aspartame has been studied. I think there's one study that linked it to hair loss, but it's not very well documented. So it's not very clear whether this is actually true or not. It's just been suggested as a possible relationship. I wouldn't say it's a strong relationship or anything like that, but overall, right, I don't think aspartame is the best thing to consume. It's been linked to a couple of other issues long term, also not that well documented. But there are better alternative sweeteners that are sugar-free. So think of stevia, monk fruit extract is actually one of my favorites. It's high in antioxidants, and as of today, right, there are no known downsides to monk fruit sweetener. So if you're gonna consume a sugar-free sweetener, why not just consume stevia or monk fruit sweetener rather than aspartame? I get that in certain drinks, like soft drinks, like Diet Coke, they come with aspartame, but if you're gonna do like your own baking or cooking and you need some kind of sweetener, definitely err on the side of either stevia or monk fruit extract rather than aspartame or any of these other chemicals. Food additives. It's not just obvious culprits like sugar and junk food, but also certain food additives that could be damaging your hair health. For example, caramel color. A common food additive is often processed with harmful chemicals like caustic soda, sulfites, and ammonia, which can lead to hair loss. Even some natural additives can have the same effect on your hair. But the worst offender of them all is carmine dye or cochineal extract, which is extracted from dried bugs and used as a color additive in various food items such as fruits, drinks, sweets, yogurts, and more. Yeah, I mean, this is actually a pretty well-documented relationship between some of these different food additives and hair loss, especially cochineal here, which you'll find, I believe, in M&Ms. So it's what gives that sort of glossy sort of color and texture to M&Ms and other food items as well. But yeah, that has been linked to hair loss, so definitely try to avoid that. It says, not only does this additive cause hair loss, but it can also trigger severe allergic reactions that could be life-threatening. So next time you reach for that colorful fruit drink, think twice about what you're putting into your body. Yeah, I mean, I think overall that's pretty good advice. And then in conclusion, it says, in summary, maintaining a healthy and balanced diet is crucial for preventing hair fall. It's important to avoid or limit the consumption of foods that can cause damage to hair health, such as those mentioned above. A regular hair care routine that includes cleaning and nourishing the scalp can also help promote healthy hair growth. Yeah, absolutely. So overall, I think the author mentioned a lot of good tips and a lot of good foods, or a lot of bad foods, I should say, to avoid. Probably the part that I would agree with most are some of the sugar items, so refined carbohydrates, obviously pure sugary foods, as well as, what was the last piece here? Oh yeah, carbonated drinks. Yeah, those three things you should definitely avoid because they will cause inflammation via insulin sensitivity and overproducing insulin. And so because of that, you should avoid some of those sugary items. But the greasy food, yeah, I mean, it's not great to have greasy food overall, but I mean, having some oily food once in a while isn't the worst thing try to avoid those food additives as well. Overall, I thought it was a good article. Let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Do you disagree? Do you agree? And if you could, please like the video and subscribe. And we'll see you next time.